Hey, everyone, welcome to our new podcast, Practicing Speaking Skills **. My name is Linda, and I'm here with my good friend Leo.
Hello, everyone. I'm Leo, and we are so excited to help you practice and improve your English speaking skills. In this podcast, we're going to share tips, ideas, and ways to practice speaking English every day.
That's right, Leo. We know speaking English can be a little scary for many people, especially if you're just starting out. But don't worry, today is all about learning simple steps that can help you feel more comfortable and confident when speaking.
Exactly, Linda. And it doesn't matter if you're an elementary learner or more advanced at the intermediate level. This podcast is for anyone who wants to get better at speaking English. So, in today's episode, we'll talk about why speaking is so important and what you can do to practice every day.
So, let's start with the big question. Why is practicing speaking important? Well, learning to speak a language helps you communicate with people. If you can speak English, you can talk to people from many different countries. You can make new friends, travel, and even find a better job.
That's a great point, Linda. Speaking English helps you share your ideas, ask questions, and express how you feel. You can be part of conversations, and that makes learning fun. And here's something important to remember. Speaking is not just about the words. It's also about confidence.
Yes, and confidence comes from practicing. The more you practice, the more confident you will feel. Don't worry about making mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes when they are learning something new. What's important is that you keep trying.
That's so true. No one speaks perfectly from the beginning. But every time you practice, you get a little better. And here's the good news. There are many ways to practice speaking English, even if you don't live in an English-speaking country.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We will give you some easy and fun ideas on how to practice speaking every day, even if you're alone.
All right, let's get into the good stuff. How can you start practicing your speaking skills? Well, one of the easiest ways is to talk to yourself in English.
That's right. I know it sounds funny, but talking to yourself can really help. When you're doing simple things at home, like cooking or cleaning, try to talk about what you're doing. For example, you can say, "I'm washing the dishes," or "I'm making tea." This helps you think in English and use the words you already know.
And don't worry if your sentences are short or simple. The important thing is to get comfortable speaking out loud. You're practicing your brain to think in English, and that's a big step.
Another great way to practice is by repeating what you hear. When you're watching a movie, a TV show, or listening to an English podcast like this one, try to repeat the sentences out loud. You don't have to copy every word perfectly. Just try to get the general meaning and sound.
Yes, this will help with both pronunciation and fluency. The more you repeat, the easier it will become to speak naturally.
And there's a technique called shadowing, which is really helpful for improving speaking speed. What you do is listen to a native speaker say something, and then you try to speak at the same time as them. It's okay if you can't keep up at first, but over time, you'll notice you're speaking faster and with better pronunciation.
Now, another great way to practice speaking is with a partner or a group. If you have friends or family members who are also learning English, try to practice with them.
Yes, practicing with others is fun because you can have real conversations. You can ask each other questions, answer them, and talk about different topics. Even if your friend is at the same level as you, it helps to practice together.
And don't forget, you can also find speaking partners online. There are many apps and websites where you can chat with other English learners or even native speakers. Some people might be shy about this, but it's a great way to meet new people and improve your speaking at the same time.
That's a great point, Leo. And if you don't have a partner, you can always record yourself speaking. You can talk about anything your day, your hobbies, or what you plan to do tomorrow. Then, listen to the recording and see where you can improve.
Listening to your own voice can feel strange at first, but it's really helpful. You'll start to notice which words are hard for you to say or if you need to work on your pronunciation.
Now, we know that sometimes it can be hard to stay motivated. You might feel like you're not improving, or maybe you're too shy to speak. But don't worry, that's totally normal.
Yes, everyone feels like that at some point. The key is to keep going. One good way to stay motivated is to set small goals for yourself. For example, you can set a goal to practice speaking for 10 minutes every day.
Exactly. And don't compare yourself to others. Everyone learns at their own speed. Celebrate the small wins. Maybe today you learned a new word or spoke without feeling so nervous. These are all steps forward.
And remember, you're not alone. There are millions of people around the world who are learning English just like you. Keep practicing, and soon you'll notice a big difference in your speaking skills.
So let's recap what we've talked about today. First, we learned that speaking is important because it helps you communicate and build confidence.
And we also shared some easy ways to practice speaking, like talking to yourself, repeating what you hear, and finding a speaking partner.
And don't forget to stay motivated by setting small goals and celebrating your progress, no matter how small it seems.
That's right. Every little bit of practice helps. So, keep speaking, keep practicing, and don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Alright, let's begin with one of the hardest parts for many learners. Starting a conversation. Sometimes it's difficult to know what to say first. But here's a little secret: starting a conversation in English doesn't have to be complicated.
Exactly. You don't need to say something super clever or long. In fact, most conversations start with something very simple. You can start with a greeting like, hello, or hi, how are you? These are very common and easy ways to begin a conversation.
Yes, that's a good point, Leo. Another way to start is by asking a simple question. Questions are great because they get the other person to talk, and then you can listen and respond. For example, you could ask, how was your day?
And remember, if you don't understand the answer, it's okay to ask the person to repeat. You can say, sorry, can you say that again? Or I didn't understand, can you explain? People are usually happy to help.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Asking questions shows that you're interested in the conversation, and it gives you time to think of what to say next.
Another easy way to start a conversation is by talking about what's around you. For example, if you're at a coffee shop, you can say, this coffee smells great, or I love this place. Do you come here often? These are simple sentences, but they're great conversation starters.
Yes, and it helps to remember that most people are happy to talk, so don't feel too shy or nervous. Just start with something small, and the conversation will naturally grow.
Now that we've learned how to start a conversation, let's talk about the next challenge, keeping the conversation going.
This part can feel tricky, but there are a few simple techniques that can help you. One of the best ways is to ask follow-up questions after someone answers your question. Ask more about what they said. For example, if they tell you about their weekend, you can ask, what did you do? Or did you have fun?
Yes, follow-up questions are great because they show that you're listening and interested in what the other person is saying. Another good tip is to share your own thoughts or experiences. If someone talks about their weekend, you can share something about yours. This makes the conversation more natural.
That's true, Leo. And it's important to stay relaxed. Don't worry too much about using perfect grammar. Focus on the flow of the conversation. Sometimes, if you get stuck, you can repeat part of what the other person said. For example, if they say, I went to the park, you can respond, oh, you went to the park. How was it?
That's a great tip, Linda. Repeating part of the sentence helps you keep the conversation going without feeling too much pressure. And it gives you time to think about what to say next.
Also, try to add your own opinion. If someone tells you, I saw a great movie, you can say, really? I love movies too. What's the name of the movie? Or that sounds interesting. I like action movies. How about you?
Yes, giving your opinion helps the conversation feel more like a real exchange. And don't forget about body language. Even though this is a speaking podcast, remember that when you're talking to someone in person, smiling, nodding, and making eye contact are all ways to show that you're engaged in the conversation.
Okay, so now you've started a conversation. You've kept it going. But what about when it's time to end the conversation? Ending a conversation politely is just as important as starting one.
That's right, Linda. Sometimes you need to finish a conversation, but you don't want to be rude. So how can you do it? Well, one easy way is to thank the person. For example, you can say, "It was great talking with you," or "Thanks for the nice conversation."
Yes, and you can also say something like, "I've got to go now," or "I have something to do, but it was great chatting." This way, the person knows you enjoyed the conversation, but you need to end it.
And if you want to talk again later, you can say, "Let's talk again soon," or "Hope to see you later." It's a nice way to leave the conversation open for the future.
Ending a conversation doesn't have to be awkward if you keep it simple and polite. Most people understand when it's time to go, and they'll appreciate that you took the time to talk.
Exactly. So remember, practice starting conversations, keeping them going with follow-up questions and opinions, and ending them politely. These steps will help you feel more confident in your speaking skills.
Let's quickly review what we've covered in this episode. First, we learned how to start a conversation with simple greetings or questions. Then, we talked about how to keep the conversation going by asking follow-up questions and sharing your own ideas.
And finally, we discussed how to end a conversation politely by thanking the person and saying you enjoyed the chat. These are all basic but important skills for having a good conversation in English.
That's right, Leo. And remember, the more you practice, the easier it will get. Don't worry if you feel nervous at first. The key is to keep talking, even if it's just a little bit each day.
We're really excited about today's episode because we're going to talk about something many English learners want to improve: fluency and sounding natural when speaking English.
Yes, fluency is a big topic, and it's something a lot of people worrying about. But don't worry. Today we're going to give you simple tips to help you speak more smoothly and sound more like a native speaker.
And remember, just like everything else, fluency comes with practice.
So let's start by talking about what fluency actually is. Fluency means being able to speak a language easily and smoothly. It's not just about knowing the right words, it's about speaking without too many pauses and feeling comfortable when you talk.
Exactly, Linda. Many learners think fluency means speaking fast, but that's not true. Fluency is about being able to express yourself clearly and naturally. You don't have to rush your words. In fact, speaking too fast can sometimes make it harder to understand.
Yes, that's such an important point. Fluency is also about being able to keep a conversation going without stopping too much to think about the words you need. And today, we'll share some tips on how you can build that fluency over time.
So, let's start with our first tip: practice speaking every day. This might sound simple, but it's really important. The more you practice speaking, the more natural it will feel. Even if you only practice for 10 or 15 minutes a day, it makes a big difference.
That's right. You don't need to have long conversations every day. You can start by talking to yourself, like we mentioned. You can describe your day, your plans, or even your thoughts out loud. The goal is to keep your mouth and brain active with English.
And if you have a friend or language partner, even better. Try to speak with them in English regularly. The more you use the language, the more comfortable you'll get with it.
Exactly. Just like learning a musical instrument, practice is key. The more you play, the better you get. It's the same with language. You need to practice speaking to improve fluency.
Our second tip is to learn common phrases and expressions that people use in everyday conversation. These are sometimes called chunks of language, and they can help you speak more naturally.
Yes, native speakers often use short, fixed phrases that they don't have to think about too much. For example, phrases like "How's it going?" "Sounds good," or "What do you think?" are used all the time. If you learn these phrases, you can use them in conversations without thinking too hard about grammar or vocabulary.
And learning these expressions can help you respond more quickly in conversations. Instead of trying to create long, complicated sentences, you can use simple, ready-made phrases that fit the situation.
That's a great point, Leo. Using these common phrases will also make you sound more natural, because this is how people really talk in everyday life.
Our third tip is to listen to native speakers as much as possible. One of the best ways to improve fluency is by listening to how native speakers talk, how they pronounce words, how they connect ideas, and how they use expressions.
Yes, listening is a key part of improving your speaking. You can listen to English podcasts, watch TV shows or movies, or even listen to music. Pay attention to how people speak naturally in different situations.
And don't just listen passively, try to repeat what you hear. This is a technique called shadowing. For example, when you watch a show, pause after a character says something and try to repeat it exactly the same way they said it. This helps with pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation.
That's a great tip, and you can do this with any kind of audio. Listen to a podcast, and when you hear an interesting phrase, pause and say it out loud. It's a fun and easy way to practice.
The next tip is simple but very important. Don't be afraid to slow down sometimes. When people try to speak too quickly, they make more mistakes or feel more nervous. It's okay to take your time when speaking.
Yes, that's so true. Fluency doesn't mean speaking fast. It's about speaking clearly. If you slow down a little and take a breath before speaking, it can help you stay calm and focused.
And when you slow down, you have more time to think about what you want to say. This can help you avoid mistakes and make your sentences more organized.
Exactly. It's better to speak slowly and clearly than to rush and feel confused. So take a deep breath, relax, and don't worry if you need a little extra time to say something. Fluency will come with practice.
Our last tip is one of the most important ones. Focus on communication, not perfection. When you're having a conversation, the goal is to communicate your ideas. It's not about using perfect grammar or big words.
Yes, many learners get stuck because they want everything they say to be perfect. But remember, even native speakers make mistakes sometimes. The important thing is to keep talking and keep the conversation going.
That's right. If you make a mistake, don't worry about it. Just keep going. The more you speak, the more comfortable you'll get, and the fewer mistakes you'll make over time.
Exactly. And remember, the person you're talking to is probably more interested in understanding what you're saying than in checking if your grammar is perfect. So focus on getting your message across and don't be afraid to make mistakes.
So, to recap, we talked about some great tips for improving fluency. First, practice speaking every day, even if it's just for a few minutes.
Second, learn common phrases and expressions to make your conversations smoother. Third, listen to native speakers and try to repeat what you hear to improve your pronunciation and rhythm.
Fourth, don't be afraid to slow down. Speaking clearly is more important than speaking fast. And finally, focus on communicating your ideas, not on being perfect.
Yes, these are simple but powerful tips that will help you speak English more fluently and naturally. Just remember, fluency takes time and practice, so be patient with yourself.
Yes, thank you for listening, keep practicing, and you'll see great improvements. We'll see you in the next episode.
Bye for now.
Bye, and happy speaking.